hi, it's Jessica Draper-Mann for Something Old, Something New, and I am chatting to the lovely Mary Bolt today, chatting all things about her new single, Nostalgia Road, as well as a few little bits about her musical backstory and about her creative process as well.
Thank you so much for having me, Jess. I'm Mary Bolt. I'm a singer-songwriter based in the Peak District, just outside of Stockport. And yeah, I've just released my new single, Nostalgia Road. It's out now. It's kind of my take on those sort of the feelings that you get when you're kind of revisiting a place that was once sort of a very big or important part of your life, somewhere that you used to call home, and that kind of mix of feelings that you get in that situation, like you say, literally just driving down, an old high street, or somewhere that was once so familiar to you and still is in some ways, but obviously now is very different as well.
So the artwork as well, it's based around, I'm assuming it's based around the Peak District, I guess, from kind
Yeah.
of hills and things, which is where you are based. How would you say, kind of being from the Peak District, how would you say that has impacted or inspired your music compared to if you were to like grow up in kind of like Manchester, like a central city kind of thing? How would you say that growing up where you have has impacted your music?
Yeah, of course. That is a good question. So I guess funny enough, I've actually only really been writing my own music since I've been in the Peak District. I actually grew up in Cheshire, so only over the border, but not too
Yeah.
far away. And I was always very musical when I was younger. I was more like classically trained as a musician. I did sort of grade 8 flute and did lots of orchestra things. And I always sang, but I never really sort of focused on writing my own music. And then it was probably around 2022. I think you just get to that point sometimes in life where you just think, life's too short, and it's always something I'd wanted to do. I'd always wanted to write my own songs and try and sort of get some of my own music recorded and everything. And I guess the Peak District in some way, sort of my life now, and the sort of day to day where I am, that kind of inspired me in the sense of the time and the sort of freedom to write and put those songs into words and come up with ideas and yeah, put it all on paper.
It sounds really cheesy, but a lot of people there is like that big phrase of, oh, when you can't speak, music will speak for you. Like music can speak better than words can sometimes. And I think
Yeah,
especially with the song so personal, I think it makes a real difference, I think, when you've got kind of that personal connection with it. It's
yeah,
really lovely. And kind of
absolutely.
with a song so personal, because your music's very honest, it's quite raw, it's very much based on personal experience.
Yeah,
Your previous EP, which is the Taking Chances EP, that's quite it's a bit more, I'd say it's rawer than Nostalgia Road, in the sense Nostalgia Road is quite optimistic, whereas Taking Chances is a bit more of a kind of rawness to it, but a bit more cathartic. There's a bit more of a not a darkness, but there's more of a kind of, it's a lower tone kind of thing. So
yeah, no,
what was
absolutely.
the difference in creative process for Nostalgia Road compared to the Taking Chances EP?
Funny enough, I did toy quite a while because it, like I say, it's one of those topics and titles, and I think I did start off in my mind with it being a little bit more of a more mellow and a sadder song. But I was kind of torn between those emotions because obviously nostalgia can be sad, but there's also a lot of kind of warmth and kind of positivity I get in the way that it shaped who you are and it's got you to where you are now. And I didn't want it to just be a sad song or coming from a more darker place. I wanted it to have that positive edge as well, so it kind of evolved. I was in two minds at first, and then I knew with the next singles that I really wanted to focus a bit more on trying to get or playing around with different sounds. So not just me and my guitar for once, get a few different um, sort of sounds going with the recordings. So yeah, we just sort of played around a bit in the studio, kind of see what would work, and yeah, that's kind of what it evolved into.
Because I think there's definitely a thing when it comes to making music, it always starts off kind of very humble beginnings, very simple of like guitar, voice and things. But I think when you start adding everything else in, you really get into it. Like someone I know has just done a song using a pocket piano, which I never
Oh
thought you'd
wow.
use for a song. Kind of, I didn't know it was a thing until they've kind of made the song with it, and it's like, wow, this adds so much kind of it's very like you listen to it, you're like, oh gosh, this actually really hurts. This song, this is quite, it's quite a raw song. It's gorgeous. It's those
Yeah.
sort of things. I think there's kind of in music, there's having your own perspective, which is always really good. But I think when you let other voices in, kind of like, oh well, actually, how about this? It really adds such a layer to the music making, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not so strong on like the sort of production side. I give me a bit of music software and I'm just like confused. So I always start writing just me and the guitar. So yeah, it's really great to have, you know, that input into how it can be something a little bit bigger. I mean, you know, I'm still torn about what to do with some of my next songs. I've got another sort of single being process, which is kind of along a similar feel to Nostalgia Road, and playing around with different elements. But yeah, it's absolutely not to say that I won't record some more just acoustic as well, because I definitely like both angles.
So, kind of, we're as talking about the track. What's something that what do you find yourself getting nostalgic about a lot in life? I mean, I very much am a bit of a cinephile. I love the films I grew up with, and I love a lot of the music I listened to in high school. What is something in life you get the most nostalgic about, though?
I think it probably is music, to be fair. I've always been around music, even from being really small, and like parents listening to things like the Beatles. So my first ever gig was the Spice Girls when I was about 6, I think. And yeah, you know, I've always been sort of, what's the word, fascinated and just drawn in by all aspects of music. You know, from as young as I could sort of get out and about on my own, like 17, 18, I was going to gigs and festivals. And yeah, I just love all aspects of music. And obviously music is it's very related to your senses and memories. And I think it always drives a lot of emotions either way. But yeah, it's absolutely something that can sort of earmark, you know, the periods and decades of your life.
I think that's such a good way to put it. I do love the Spice Girls, though. I think that what a great first concert.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Like I feel
I think you're on
like
the very back row of the, well, what was then the MEN Arena? It's obviously the AO now.
it's so confusing. Every time they change the name, I'm like, why has it changed names 3 times in my lifetime? I don't like it.
I know.
It's so
I still call it the
strange.
MEN, even though it's like, I don't know how many years it's been since it's changed
Yeah,
now.
I still get nostalgic about it being the MEN. Quite
Yeah,
honestly, singing Young Voices at the MEN was like a huge achievement as a kid. That is
definitely.
brilliant. But I
That's
think it's those
amazing.
sort of things. I think at a time where everything feels so uncertain, nostalgia is such a big like vehicle of hope. Very
Yeah.
much. I think especially with a lot going on, you're kind of like, oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna sit and watch my favorite film kind of thing. I've got very into the Tinkerbell films again, which I grew up
Yeah.
with, like Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, anything like that. That's like, oh, there's a bit of hope in saving the world. It's quite nice
Yeah.
having that. I think nostalgia is it can be such a huge kind of hopeful thing, if anything. Now we're going to
Yeah.
kind of get a bit introspective. Well, sort of introspective because I know you're from Peach Street. You play a lot in Manchester as well,
Yeah.
kind of with the city centre, which has got some incredible venues. What do you love the most about performing? And what would you say is your favourite venue in Manchester to play?
Oh, good question. I I love being on stage, full stop. It's just, yeah, you can't compare. I think it's like just the feeling of just kind of being there with your, you know, with your words, and that sort of, there's, I always find that when I'm performing, there's always kind of a minute where you almost get kind of a bit of a quiet over the audience, and that always, there's just something about that moment where everyone just kind of is just a bit quiet, and you can just sort of hear everyone just kind of in a weird way, you can almost like hear them listening, and that moment always gets me every time. And to me, performing just is, it's just the best feeling. Being able to stand up there. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, I would never have thought I would be on stage with a guitar. I was terrified of playing a guitar in public. And yeah, to me, it just feels like such an achievement. And, especially because I do a lot of sort of covers performing as well. But when it's my own songs, there's just always that extra bit of the specialness to it. And yeah, it just feels so rewarding, and yeah, so nice to be able to get my songs out there and have people listen to them. It's just amazing.
It's honestly, I think it makes such a difference when it's very different to like writing it at home and going, oh, I love this song, and then actually putting it out in the world and people going, oh, actually, you know what? I resonate with that. That's what music is. I think music, it's such a community. I think that's a massive thing. What would you say has been your favourite venue to play in Manchester? What kind of venues do you love to play the most?
Of course. Well, I guess this one's probably a little bit outside of Manchester. My favourite one in the Manchester area would be the Spinning Top in Stockport.
Oh, Spinning Top, classic.
Yeah, I've played there a few times. Mike is absolutely lovely, and they've really supported me with my own music and given me a space to perform, and they've just been brilliant. I'm slowly sort of working towards more of the sort of Northern Quarter venues and some of the I'm actually playing at the Pier Hat tonight, which is really exciting. So I'm supporting a singer-songwriter called Charlie Smith, who's doing a tour for the Music Venue Trust. So that's my first time there, so that's really exciting. And I played at the Castle Hotel in January.
I love the Castle. So gorgeous.
That's it. A lot of them I'm only playing for like the first time at the moment, so I'm getting to grips and getting to know them all. But yeah, it's so much fun. It's very different as well than sort of the quieter kind of Peak District venues, like the sort of pubs and venues out here, to being back in the Northern Quarter in Manchester is always it's really exciting just to have that kind of buzz, and you can really feel the heart of the music there as well.
And kind of with kind of performing and then making such gorgeous music, what would you say? Because you've had quite a good start to your career, doing a lot of songs, releasing your first EP, which for some artists, it's getting to that EP that could be so terrifying, but when it's out, it's like the most amazing thing. And you're doing such amazing. You've got such an amazing career so far. What would you say has been your favorite highlight so far of your career?
Oh, that is a good one. I think highlight. I think in terms of like performance wise, I think the sort of the biggest gig I'd done was one at the Castle Hotel supporting Apostles. That was really cool to be involved in. That was the first time I'd really done something that was sort of through a promoter, and it was such a cool night, and it was a really, really good crowd. I guess the thing that I'm proudest of is getting my music out there. Again, it was one thing I never thought I would ever do. And yeah, getting the EP out last summer was just incredible. And yeah, I was so proud to, just silly, you've probably seen it on my social media, silly things like being able to play it on Alexa, or just, seeing like the album cover pop up on like, the streaming platforms when you're like driving on the screen and things like that. It still just baffles me today that it's my name on there. But yeah, I'll always be grateful for that.
I think it's one thing, you are so kind of incredibly humble about your music, which is really lovely to see, because you really kind of live and breathe through it, which is absolutely beautiful. Because I think that's the big thing. That's like, when you're making when you're making music that means the most to you, when it's those little things that are kind of, doesn't matter if there's 100 people or there's 5 people at a gig, it's
Absolutely.
Someone there supporting you. As long as that you have that one person support you, that's what kind of really matters. Kind of going back to the Peak District stuff, kind of defining your music, because we have spoke about how it is quite cathartic, it's quite raw, it's quite beautiful. If you could describe your music as a flower, what kind of flower would you choose, and why do you identify your music with that?
Oh, good question. That is something I can't say I've ever thought of, but I suppose if we were to link it to something like here, it would be we get a lot of wild poppies, so they're kind of
Ooh.
like orangey yellow wild poppies, and they just kind of pop up like everywhere. And obviously they're not nurtured. They're rough and ready at the side of the road, but they're still beautiful and very much a part of the Peak District. So yeah, I think that would be the nearest thing that I could kind of link it to, in the sense of, yeah, I'm not an absolutely polished musician by any means, so yeah, definitely rough around the edges in that sense. But yeah, I I put my heart into my songs, and I hope that all the listeners find some sort of beauty in the words and in the music.
That's a gorgeous choice though, because I feel like I
Thank
love, but
you.
I love like choice like that because it's one of those things of I think when you can describe your music as something else, that's a big thing. Is I think as well of kind of especially at a time with the way the music industry is going, DIY spirit is becoming a huge thing, and I think we've seen not all the time, but there has been a lot of artists that kind of bigger artists that will make music, and sometimes it can feel a little bit inauthentic, kind of like it's so polished. There's no mistakes. There's kind of nothing really that kind of you kind of go. It's kind of like, oh well, they're just like me, kind of thing. I think
Yeah,
it's
no, I know what you
it's.
mean.
I'm so glad to see kind of DIY music spirit and that sort of thing coming back because that's what music's always been at its core. It's always
Yeah,
been DIY. It's not always like a bit. It's gone in the days really of like a massive label kind of thing, giving loads of money to artists. But it's very much a thing of. It's nice to see that freedom now in music where people are going.
yeah,
Actually, you know what? I'm not going to let a label tell me what to do. I'm going to make what I want to make, and that's how it's going to work. My way or the highway kind of thing. That's kind of what it's got to be. I mean,
yeah,
sort of talking, kind of going right to the beginning here, getting a bit reflective, and kind of being kind of DIY musician and kind of being kind of rough and ready kind of thing and prepared for anything and being amazing. If you could talk to yourself at the beginning of your music career, what advice would you give to kind of early music you, for kind of what you've learned from making music now?
oh, that is also a very good question. I guess the first thing I would say is don't sit on it for so long. Because I mean, I'm obviously coming back to this a bit later in life. I'm in my 30s, and I put it off for ages. I obviously I didn't really play any. I didn't play the guitar. I could play the sort of piano, kind of the basics, a lot younger, but obviously not really something you could carry around and do sort of singer songwriter gigs with. And I put it off, and I knew that I always wanted to go back to music again at some point. And like I said, yeah, I think the first thing would be to just, don't don't doubt it, and just give it a go and learn the guitar a lot sooner. But also, yeah, don't be afraid. Again, I think it did me a lot of favors because I think that maturity has kind of helped me in the sense of the songwriting. I don't think I had the confidence 10 years ago to sort of put into words, the sort of the songs and the emotions and everything that I have now. So I think that's been a very good point to sort of start from. And I think it would have been very different if I was trying to do that 10 years ago. But yeah, just, believing in yourself, and just, not being afraid to just take the chance. And, you only get one shot at these things. Life is too short. As this is pretty much what my song "Believe in You" was all about. What you would say to your younger self, and yeah, just don't be afraid, and just get out there and give it your best shot.
That's like the kind of advice that there's a lot of musicians in the scene need to see. I think when there's such an oversaturation now, especially with social media, of being a musician, you've got to make content. You've got to
Oh yeah,
like because even though music's always been a product kind of thing, there's so much more now where you have to put yourself out and advertise yourself to a point where you're sometimes selling your soul. You're spending an hour a day to film a video when then you have people like putting advice out on TikTok going, oh my gosh, like, don't do this. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
don't do
it's
this. Like,
everywhere, isn't
there's a
it?
very gorgeous bit of advice though, of kind of Like, you have one shot at it, kind of put your heart into it, and don't let other people tell you how to do it. And that's such a lovely sentiment. I think it's so it's so key to the scene now. You are brilliant.
Yeah.
You're very poetic, Mary. I've got to say, you're very poetic. It's
I would never have said
lovely.
that about me, so I'll take that as a compliment.
It's lovely though. I think it's one of those things of I think kind of I think a lot comes from experience kind of thing, but I think it's something that
Yeah.
I think you are. It's true. You are never too late to anything. Like, oh, you're not late. You're just on time for the party kind of thing. It's like there's Rory. There's an artist called Rory who I follow on TikTok, and she's
Okay.
I want to say she 40. I think she's 40 or so, and she literally
Oh,
started
bro.
making music just before she turned 40. It's like, you know what, I'm going to do it, and now she's doing
Yeah.
incredibly well. It's like,
Oh, amazing.
if you believe in yourself, anything's possible, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
And it is
lovely.
hard because there's always been a lot of, I guess, a lot of visibility in the music
Mm.
industry of, people that are a lot younger, and, that obviously there's so much talent, and it can be scary, coming as an oldie, you think, oh my God, no one's going to even pay any attention to look at, even my social media. I mean, that is my bugbear. I'm so terrible. Like, I'm definitely not an influencer by any shape or means, and that has been, yeah, definitely a learning curve, particularly when it comes to like promoting the songs and the albums, and just like you say, it's finding that time to actually constantly, update and find new things to post about, and it's an absolute other world to what I was doing before music, and yeah, it's a lot to get your head around. But yeah, it's just a case of, I guess, blocking out a lot of the noise, because like you say, everywhere you look on social media, there's someone saying that this is the right way to do things, or this is the new trend, you need to post like this. And I think in some ways, you've got to stay authentic to yourself as well, and just do what reflects you, and as an artist, as a person, and I think that is the most important thing. If you're honest and authentic, then you can't really go wrong.
Um, moving on a bit to kind of the future, is what is in the stars for Mary Bolt in 2026 people can look forward to? I know you've got some singles kind of in processing, kind of coming out soon, and obviously you're playing an incredible number of shows. I'm amazed you can keep track of them all. What can people look forward to in 2026 though from Mary Bolt? What is in the stars for you this year?
Course. So yeah, so there is a lot going on. Again, I think it's that case of just trying to do anything that I can get involved in, and just, yeah, like you say, just put everything into giving it the best shot that I can. So yeah, I try and keep performing as much as possible. And quite often I can be found at local pubs and bars around the Peak District, Stockport. If I'm not sort of doing shows my own music, I'm always keen to keep playing. And I think there's so much value that you can get just from, being on stage and being with an audience. So yeah, I'm always doing cover sets and things in between. But yeah, summer is looking really exciting. So in terms of sort of performances, I've got a few festivals coming up. So the biggest one is Donny Fest. I'm so excited for that at the Eco Power Stadium. Yeah, that's just going to be an incredible day. And there's so many sort of incredible artists and artists that I've seen myself before. It's just going to be an experience that I could never have imagined. So that's sort of the biggest one so far. And I've got a bunch of other festivals. I'm playing at there's Nailed It Festival in Belfast, and there's a festival over in Nantwich called Eats and Beats, which I'm playing at as well. And there's a couple of other things in the pipeline, sort of festivals and day events. That'll hopefully be announced really soon as well. So a few things going on. Obviously, there's more music. So I've got another single that's just being sort of mixed and mastered at the moment, which I'm hoping to get out in June. It's funny enough, it's called Glastonbury, so perfect timing for all the festivals and
It's
everything.
good because there's no
So that
Glasto this year. That's great
I
timing.
know. So yeah, that'll have to be the kind of substitute, I guess. But yeah, I wanted to get that one out in because that's got like summer vibes and festivals. So that is the next project that's sort of being finished. And then I'm undecided a little bit about music after that. So I've got a bunch of other songs that I'm performing live and that I'm in the process of writing as well, that I just haven't decided what to do with yet. So whether I do some more singles or whether I work towards another EP is still to be seen. But there's definitely more coming in the sense of new music. And yeah, I'm just, like I said, trying to get as much kind of live performing sort of experience as possible. So I'll be booking things in all the time. So yeah, Manchester, Stockport, Peak District, keep an eye out, and I'll be somewhere soon, I'm sure.
Where can people find you online? Where can people find your music and connect with you online? Where are you on kind of socials and streaming platforms and things?
Yeah, of course. So I have pretty much all the main social media. So the main ones I use are Facebook and Instagram. And then I do have TikTok as well, and YouTube. So yeah, you can find me on those. I did download Threads the other night, but I've not figured out how to use that yet. So yeah, just the main ones. I'd say Facebook is my main go-to. That's where I've sort of got the most followers for now. But yeah, Instagram I'm using a lot more, and that is pretty much as up to date as the Facebook. And then with streaming, again, I'm on all the main streaming platforms, so Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple. So yeah, you can find me all the main ones.
Forever.